Redneck here with the ultimate question on fishing. What is the best lure to use when fishing? Well, this can be a real simple solution or a real complex solution. So let's get right into this. All right. Here is a silver with a blue top rattle trap. You can see, rattles, definitely calls fish in. It's a good lure. Maybe it's that one. Here's a swim bait. Got the thumper tail on it. That's a good lure. How about the old Daredevil or the spoon? Would that be the best lure? How about the good old jig and a grub tail on the back? How about just a simple slip bobber with a hook and some bait? Is that the best bait to choose? How about some old school stuff? Heeland. This is a 20. You look, it's got the treble hooks that stick out to the side, kind of like a lazy Ike almost. These things work good. Maybe this should be the best go-to lure. Here's an old L&S. Or maybe it could be this little turtle lure. A little spinner on the back. There's bottom bouncers. There's plastics. There's live baits. There's spinners. So where in the world do we begin as far as picking the best lure to use while fishing? Well, I get asked this often. People say, Bearded Redneck, what is the best lure to use when you go fishing? What one is your favorite lure, they ask me. And I just kind of look at them and I smile. And I say, you want to know my favorite lure? And they say, yeah. Tell us your favorite lure. We want to know what to buy. You know what I tell them? Whatever one catches fish, that's my best lure. So, if we do that, how do we figure out what is the best lure to use? So, there's a lot of things you can look at, but we can keep it simple. First of all, we want to find the fish. So we want to match to the surroundings where the fish are. The time of year, the metabolism, water temperature, barometric pressure, water clarity, visibility of the sunlight. Is it day or is it night? Is it windy? What's the water temperature? So, let's look at those things simple. Where would we look? Let's say it's springtime. In the spring, depending on what the water temp is, you're going to want to look up either deep water adjacent to the shallow water where they're going to spawn around the rocks or what have you, or up in the feeder streams. You're going to want to start searching there. So, you find the fish. Then what? I mean, they say 90% of all fish are in 10% of the water. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't other fish other places. But how do we go about figuring them out more? Well, now we got to look more into it and look at the location. Well, now, what locations are they keying in? And not only what locations are they keying in, which ones are they keying in that they're actively feeding or can be persuaded to feed? So, we find the fish. We find the location. Now we got to figure out the presentation. We got to figure out what they're eating and how they want it presented to them. So, we look at the time of year as far as that. We look at hatches, if there's a mayfly hatch, if there's perch fry, bass fry, walleye fry, even turtle hatches. You look at those type of things to get some clues. Is there a freshwater shrimp population? Is it a shad-based reservoir? Is it a smelt-based reservoir? Is there a lot of little perch, a lot of little bluegill? What are these fish feeding off of? Sometimes you got to do a little research on this. One of the things that I like to do with this, but you have to catch a fish in order to do it, is cut one open and see what's in their stomach. I've fished largemouth bass and I couldn't get them to bite at anything one time. And when I ended up catching one, I was using about an 8-inch black worm with no weight. Basically, it was just swimming through the water. Well, when I opened up that bass, it had gardener snakes inside of it. So, match the hatch. That was out on a prairie farm pond. Okay, so we find the fish, we find the location. How do we figure out the presentation? Well, these are some tips that I can show you. You know, first of all, what's the barometric pressure? Is it high? Is it low? Low is usually tough. Usually low would be like a post front or a post storm. You know, high would be going into a storm. When you get that barometric pressure up in that 28, 29, you know, that would be a good thing to look at. Are they active? Are they not? If they're more active, you can usually get away with a artificial presentation. If it's a post spawn or some kind of lockjaw thing, you're probably going to want to go to live bait and be more natural and blend in more. You're not going to be able to have some of those things as far as line that they can see, like fire line. You might want to go to a fluorocarbon line. You know, you gotta look at it. This is the difficult part. So, how can I keep this simple so fishing can still be fun? You can make fishing as simple as you possibly want to and have fun and be successful. Or you can make it as complicated as possible. So let's make it simple. Okay, so what I would do in water, if I'm looking for fish, I would use something like a rattle trap. I like using a rattle trap. It's got the beads inside. It rattles. Calls fish in. I can throw it out and reel it in quick. I can see if I got followers, if they're not going to bite, but I can see, okay, then find fish. So I find my fish. Now I figure out my presentation. So what's a good go-to on the presentation? Well, if it's warm, if it's in the summer, usually they want that bait fast because their metabolism speeds up and it's more a reaction strike, but they got to burn off that energy. So I'm going to probably start at a fast pace. Doesn't mean that a slow pace won't work or a slower presentation or even on the bottom just sitting there might work. But if it's warm water, I'll start with a fast retrieve. If it's cold water, I will go to a slower retrieve because usually their metabolism, being cold-blooded, they're a little less active. Okay, so what do I do? How do I figure out colors? How do I figure out weights? Let's get into that. So, colors. This is what I do. If you have a clear body of water, what I would recommend trying first, doesn't mean it always works, but it's a good starting go-to. Clear waters. See that? That is a swim bait. See how it's got the natural shad look? It's got the gray top, the white sides. It looks pretty realistic like a minnow. I would start with something like that. Very realistic. Okay. Now, the darker the water, usually if it's really stained or muddy river, usually my go-to is kind of like a white because I want it to show up a little bit. I might try a chartreuse. These are just kind of favorite colors to me, but I'll start there as a base. Now, how do you figure out on the average color water where to start in the color spectrum? Well, you can get one of those colorimeters and you could get way in depth by different depths, and that's the color you should try to use and the clarity. And, you know, you could get into that, or you could just keep it simple like this. So, this is what I figured out that I will share with you. If it's a bright day, if it's sunshiny out, bright as can be, start with a flashy color. Because the sun's bright and things are going to reflect. So like this silver would work good. Let's say it's an overcast day or a dark day. What would I go to? I would go to something dark. So, it's simple. It's a starting point, not to say that it's always going to work, but it's a good starting point and you can fine tune from there. It might be a black jig on an overcast day with little black or little red specks in it, or purple specks, or what have you. I mean, they get sometimes that picky. But you can usually figure it out, and then I can show you some tricks to zoom in on it also. Okay, so you find the fish. You figure out the presentation. Now you're doing a color, and one of the biggest things that I look at is when you catch a fish, or maybe you're not quite catching them yet, and they're just nipping at the back or they're turning away, they like your presentation, but something about it isn't right. Now it could be the speed, it could be the action, it could be the wrong color. Now this is what I look at. Let's say, I'm going to go back to this rattle trap. Let's say you catch the fish, a couple of fish on that back hook. You catch the fish on the back hook, means they like it, they want to eat it. But most of the time, and if you watch a fish swallow a lure, they take it from the front because they eat it head first because it pushes the dorsal fins down and everything, and they can swallow it good. So if they hit it from the back, they might just be nipping at it and it ain't quite what they like. Fine tune your color then, fine tune your speed. But usually when they're hitting it, you got the speed right, it's more about the color. Now I've even done some tricks where, you know, I'm an average Joe that doesn't make a lot of money. Maybe I don't have a lot of different colors. I might use a Sharpie. You know, I have red and green and orange and black and purple and brown and all different color Sharpies. You can color on these with the Sharpie and change the color a little bit to get by, and that might be what it takes. So, hitting the front hook, dead on. That's what they like. Swallowing the whole bait, they love it too. Just taking that back hook and you're just barely hooking them, not totally liking what color it is or something about your lures. So you're going to have to fine tune. So, let's say they're just nipping at it in a post-spawn situation. Let's say you're using a jig. This one here is like an ounce jig. This is a big jig. Let's say you're using a jig and they're grabbing the tail of the minnow and they're just pulling your minnow off. How do you catch them? Well, what I do is like this jig. See how the hook is smaller? It's closer in. Pulls it up towards that head. And then I put a stinger hook on there. Like that. That stinger hook you can hang back farther in your crawler or your leech or your minnow or what have you, so when they grab that tail, you'll hook them. I've had this do wonders in days where you're just getting bites but you can't totally capitalize, or maybe you're not getting things right. This will help you. Now, I have 16-ounce jigs. I have up to 2-ounce jigs. This one's a 1. What do I want to use the different size jig heads for and when? This is what I say. If you can't control contact with the bottom or whatever depth you want to be at, usually I want to know where the bottom is and then I'll work up or just tick above the rocks. If you can't maintain bottom or you can't maintain the zone of where you need to be for the fish, you need to go up in weight. You only want to go as high as you can control. If you want something to drop slower, you're going to want a smaller jig. If you want more action from your live bait, you're going to want a smaller jig. However, if you're in the boat and your line's kicked way out to the side, it isn't straight down at a 90, you're not going to be able to have a quick reaction time and to be able to sense those strikes because you could have bow in your line and you don't have contact. You want to feel that jig. So if you use a fire line or something like that, that'll help cut the water better so you can get down with a smaller jig, but it'll also, the sensitivity will shoot right up the line. So go as big as you need to as far as to be able to control it. The other time I may go to a big jig is when I'm fishing like 30, 40 foot of water, like on the Missouri River. I'll go to a big jig. Why? I got so much line out I need to keep control. But also, let's say I'm on a school and they're biting. I want to get down there quick. So I use heavier weight. If I use this 16-ounce jig, it's going to take me 2-3 minutes to get down to the fish. And that school might be active and right below me and then might wander off. So use a big enough jig to be able to be in contact. Don't worry. I've caught perch with a 1 ounce jig head. I've caught walleyes. I've caught crappies. The biggest thing is you're not going to catch them if you can't keep it in the zone where the fish are and then be in contact with the lure and be able to tell if you're getting a bite, because they just might be sucking it in, spitting it out. So that's what you got to work with. Same with the bottom fishing. This is a 1 pound jig, a 16 ounce jig, or I mean sinker, sorry. This is a 16 ounce sinker. Now why in the world would I ever want to use this? Say I'm in heavy current below a dam and I need to keep my bait down there on the bottom in a certain spot, in a slack current line or in an eddy or what have you. If I can't keep my bait in a natural looking position, it's just going to fly all over the place and it's not going to look natural. So don't be scared to use big weights either. Now, I hope this helped you a little bit. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me. This was kind of a well-rounded, quick video that I put together. I definitely think there's something in here that can help you. If there's something that helped you, let me know. If there's something that you still have questions on, let me know also. I love your feedback. I love your comments. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, do so. We're going to have a ton of fishing stuff going on right now. And we got all kinds of stuff going on. We got dog training. We got air rifle. We got hunting. We got some bow 3D shoots going on. And then we'll be getting ready for this fall's hunting season. We're going to be shooting clay pigeons with the bow, getting ready for pheasant season. We're going to be getting ready to shoot some Canadian geese early season with my bow out of the air. So I'm going to start practicing a lot with my recurve. I'm going to be shooting at clay pigeons. I'm probably even going to be shooting at some cheap helicopters. I might even try to dove hunt. I mean, if I can hit a dove, I think I can hit a goose in the air. Or at least I'm going to have a better chance. So definitely, if you haven't subscribed and you like my videos, make sure to subscribe. Make sure to like this video if you do. If you don't like it, let me know that too. If you got questions, let me know, and maybe I can make a video in the future to cater towards you. And I hit that little bell thing, because that bell thing will let you know when my videos come on. I'm going to start hitting quite a few out lately. So definitely, there's a lot of information and there's a lot of good things that I can help you people. And who knows, maybe you can help me too. But thank you so much for watching. And until next time, you guys have a good one.